Resistance is art. Through my art, I resist. Resistance is my art, and my art is my war.
Musicians using music as a way to maintain their cultural identity.
I believe that when I sing to the world, I portray Palestine through my voice, my singing, and my songs.
Songs from the lost homeland. At this time, on AlJazeera.
A debilitating condition afflicting millions of women across the developing world.
Sometimes it is not possible to cure a patient with fistula. We have to prepare her psychologically.
Revealing the human stories behind fistula and its intimate connection to poverty. A powerful new series exploring global maternal health. Birthrights. At this time on AlJazeera.
New battlegrounds in Libya, rebels claim control of the strategic town of Ras Lanuf. While Gaddafi loyalists say they made gains in rebel-held AlZawiya. Hello and welcome. Good to have you with us. I'm Divi Gopalan. You're watching AlJazeera live from Doha. Also coming up. Protesters stormed state security headquarters in Egypt after claims officials are destroying documents. Cutting corruption, raising wages, China's premier outlines his targets for 2011. Plus, the moment several women were shot dead in Côte d'Ivoire, but will the international community intervene? Residents of the Libyan town of AlZawiya say at least 30 civilians have been killed in fighting there between rebel forces and troops loyal to Muammar Gaddafi. On Friday, pro-Gaddafi forces attacked areas in and around the city. Reports say they pushed back the rebels to its central square, but the city, which is just west of the capital Tripoli, remains under rebel control. These pictures were taken before rebels fought to take the oil port of Ras Lanuf. Opposition sources say they later won the battle, a claim the government denies. Now, the area is halfway between Benghazi and Tripoli. In the capital, tear gas and rubber bullets were used to break up an anti-Gaddafi protest after Friday prayers. But a rally by the leader's supporters went on all afternoon. And in the eastern city of Benghazi, a dozen people were killed by an explosion at an arms dump. It's not clear what caused the blast. But that didn't deter anti-government demonstrators on Friday. Benghazi is where the uprising began, and religious leaders called on people there to keep up the fight. Tony Bertley reports.
Neither the weather nor Gaddafi's threats could stop them massing in the centre of Benghazi for Friday prayers. Tens of thousands gathered in defiance of their hated leader and in support of those still under government control in Tripoli. In the city where the uprising began, the cleric called for Gaddafi to step down, the people to stand up, and those with guns to come forward and fight for the liberation of the capital. These people remain resolute and determined, but that alone is not enough. They need something more. If anything, Gaddafi seems stronger and bolder than he was at the beginning. So the question is, what next? And what if the Libyan leader refuses to go? Will this civil uprising turn into a civil war? Many say that won't happen, but international rhetoric has increased. Direct pressure has slowed. Some feel the momentum of the uprising has slowed with it.
Gaddafi is in hiding. He is not representing anybody any longer. He is a coward and he won't challenge the people, and it is only a matter of time.
People here know Gaddafi has weathered international storms and sanctions before, most notably after the downing of Pan Am 103 more than 20 years ago, and there are still real concerns in free Libya.
We need to think of the life of the Libyans first as a priority, so we are asking for the help of the international community under the UN flag.
From the streets, though, there are no doubts. Those in Benghazi seem totally committed to the fight, wherever it may lead.
Let him drop bombs on us. We're not afraid of anything. We're not even afraid of his mercenaries.
Gaddafi has used that aerial threat a number of times in the last few days, and control of the skies is essential to complete liberation.
We know that this guy will commit a massacre in Tripoli today, and if the international community doesn't move, then it will be on their conscience.
Another victim of the rebellion is paraded through the streets of the city. It's almost a daily occurrence. The pain is still being felt here. Ahmed Sati was a 51-year-old civil servant who has just died from a bullet wound sustained during the demonstrations. His children lost a loving father and a man who wanted democracy. Even though Gaddafi is still in power, they don't feel his death was in vain.
My father did not die for nothing. He and the rest died for our beloved country.
With the death toll now said to have surpassed 1,000, the heart of the revolution is suffering. And throughout Libya today, there is still uncertainty, there is still anger, and there is still death. Tony Bertley, AlJazeera, Benghazi.
Well, the situation in Libya's east is developing into a standoff between pro and anti-government forces. But as AlJazeera's Jackie Rowland reports, Gaddafi's troops are fighting back.
The situation now in the east of the country is really a stalemate, with anti-Gaddafi forces either unable or unwilling to advance further towards the west and to try to take the fight closer to Gaddafi strongholds like Sirte and Tripoli. The pro-Gaddafi forces also seem unable or unwilling to do much more now apart from scrap against the rebel forces over a few towns in the deserts to the west of Benghazi. Now, when you look at the rebel forces, they're a rather undisciplined, unorderly bunch. Some of them will freely admit to having no military experience as recently as a week ago. And the weaponry they're using is a combination of old Soviet anti-aircraft guns and also some newer weaponry, but they are very undisciplined. They just seem to be letting off ammunition at the moment, wasting ammunition with no particular purpose. Now, this uprising that began a couple of weeks ago with such power and energy does appear to be losing momentum. And if anything right now, it looks as though the pro-Gaddafi forces have the upper hand.
Videos of what are said to be some of those wounded in the fighting at Ras Lanouf have been posted on the internet. They cannot be independently verified, but show several bodies.
We engaged carrying light weapons and a helicopter started shelling us from above. Still, victory will be ours.
We were being bombed by M21 long-range missiles, but I want to assure you that none of our guys backed down. 130 of Manuel's mercenaries were killed. When we drew up near them and their long-range weapons were no longer effective, they fled.
I would like to send a message from this hospital to all the Arab nations. There is no room in the mortuary for the bodies and no place to keep the victims of this vicious and murderous regime.
The Obama administration is under increasing pressure to impose a no-fly zone over Libya. But so far, it's ruled out getting involved in any military action. Well, earlier we spoke to Zbigniew Brzezinski. He's a former national